I'm Rod Gatlin. Welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers.
All right, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today with the International Association of Woodcarvers. Today is October the 29th, a little bit after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I want to thank you all for taking time out of your Saturday afternoon to come in and join us. Today on our meeting, we've got a good friend of mine, a special guest coming to us from down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Rod Gatlin's going to be on with us with the Charlotte Woodcarvers Showcase. He's going to talk a little bit about his carving journey. He's going to talk about the Charlotte show and what all goes into putting that show together and the offerings of their club and their show down there. So I look forward to hearing from him. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about the workshops that are coming up through Woodcarving Academy. Try to announce those every week so that if you want to get involved in some of these workshops, you can go ahead and contact the instructors and get signed up for them. The next workshop that we have available is Dave Stetson. Dave's on here with us today. He's going to be doing his yearly Santa carving class that starts on November the 5th. I think he does that either based off of a rough out or a cutout. So if you're interested in signing up for that class, reach out to Dave and contact him so you can get the materials available so that you can get into that class. Janet Cordell is going to be doing a class on November the 11th. It's a Nelly doll class. Bob Hershey is going to be doing a raccoon Santa class on December the 3rd. And Ryan Olson is going to be doing a flat plane caricature class on January the 14th. So if you're interested in any of those, you can go out on Woodcarving Academy and check out the write-up about the classes. But you need to reach out to the instructors to sign up for those. I've taken many of those classes, and you get a lot of great instruction. You can see everything that the instructor is doing. It's really a great benefit for your money. So make sure you reach out to them if you're interested in those. I've put together a schedule that goes through the end of the year for presentations for our meetings. I want to run through those real quick. After today, we're going to be off next Saturday. I have a prior engagement. I'm not going to be available, so I haven't scheduled anybody. So we'll be off next Saturday. But after that, on November the 12th, we'll have Jim Feather coming in. He's done past presentations with us before. He's going to be doing a demonstration for us then, so make sure you join us for that. November the 19th, Ryan Olson, CCA member that's doing the class in January. He's going to come in and do a demonstration as well, so make sure you join us on November the 19th. We're off on November the 26th for Thanksgiving, so we won't have a meeting that Saturday. On December the 3rd, we've got John Overby that's coming back. John's on with us today. He's volunteered to come in and do a Santa carving demonstration as well. So we look forward to having John back with us. On December the 10th, Jared Wood's going to come in. He's going to do a Santa demonstration as well. We've had Jared on in the past. And then December 17th, we've got Neil Sutherland that's going to be coming in and talking to us. Neil is on the meeting today, and he's done really great in a lot of the competitions that he's been participating in recently. So make sure you put that on your calendar for December 17th to come in and check out Neil's demonstration or presentation. On the 24th, we're going to be off for Christmas. On December the 31st, we're going to be off for New Year's. So Neil will be our last meeting before January 2023, and then we'll pick back up the first weekend in January. So just make sure you join us 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on those Saturdays. I'll be posting the schedule out on social media. So if you didn't capture all of that, it should be out there. I'll probably put it out there on a regular basis so that you can see that. But make sure you join us when you can. If not, be reminded that we place all of the videos out on YouTube so you can see those anytime you need to, or you can go back and watch past meetings. So having said all that, again, today we've got Rod Gatlin on. Rod's coming to us from Charlotte, North Carolina. He's heavily involved with the Charlotte Woodcarvers down there in the Charlotte Woodcarvers Showcase. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Rod. And Rod, we appreciate you taking time out today to come in and meet with us. And we look forward to hearing what you have to share with us.
Thanks, Blake. Appreciate that. And it's good to see a lot of familiar faces, and appreciate everybody spending a little bit of time to learn about the Charlotte Showcase and my carving journey. But I thought I'd start by saying that we've set the dates for the showcase in Charlotte, and it is going to be for 2023, April 14th, 15th, and 16th. Friday is mostly a check-in day, but the vendors are open in the afternoon. So it's a good time. If you're coming from out of town, come on down to Charlotte on Friday, check in your hotel, come check in your carvings and buy some tools. And if you haven't been to our show, I know shows around the country, they're not all the same. So the way we do it in Charlotte, and I guess in some of the other southeastern states, is all the carvings that are entered are on display through the whole opening of the show. So we go around and judge them early on Saturday morning, but every carving is left on display until Sunday afternoon, when we close the show. And I think that's really important because, if you're new to carving, you haven't seen all the things that people carve. And if you enter something and you don't get a blue ribbon, you can see who beat you. And you can see all the other guys who were competing. And if there was only one guy entered and got a blue ribbon, then you can see why he got it. But it's a lot of fun. We've had last year we had over 1,000 carvings, and that's a lot of carvings to put out. We've got a great team of people that put this show together every year. So almost before one is finished, we start with the next one, and it's a labor of love. But we've got a great team, and it's a pretty good sized committee. But we always need more volunteers, so we're always happy to take some help from other clubs if they want to participate, or even individuals. Which it's kind of interesting that there's I hope maybe there's somebody on here from the Big Stone Gap Club. They were great last year. They came down, and about 10 of them came down. They put on their own show. They've got a smaller show, of course, but they wanted to learn how we do things. So they came down and helped us out at our show and learned how we did things. And we're happy to share with other clubs. So if you're in a club or you're wanting to start a show in your club, by all means, let us know if we can help you in any way. We want to do that. We're here to help spread the gospel about wood carving. Now, to describe our show a little bit for people who aren't familiar with it, we have 3 competition categories. We have novice, intermediate, and open. So if you're new to carving, only been carving a few years, you can enter in novice. And when your term expires in novice, you can move up to intermediate, and you can stay in intermediate for pretty much as long as you want to. And then whenever you're ready to compete at the highest level, you move up to open. My journey in the club and in wood carving, it goes back about 22 years. I was at the local rec center near my house swimming on a Sunday and picked up a newsletter, and the rec center there was in the newsletter mentioned some class that was going to be on wood carving. So I thought, well, that's interesting. I'll get my wife and we'll go over there and learn how to wood carve. Well, my wife wasn't interested in going, but I went by myself, and I walked in, and a fella running the class said, I didn't know you were coming. And I said, well, I didn't know I needed to tell you. So he said, well, sit down here and we'll teach you to carve. So we became good friends. And he taught me a lot about wood carving. And after a few years of carving with Stan Lahr was his name, and met some great people that night, we moved over and started carving with some other people. And eventually we all joined the Charlotte Woodcarvers Club, and had the honor of meeting Lee Dukes, who, if you haven't heard of Lee, he's a legend among wood carvers in North Carolina. He passed away a few years ago, but he was the founder of our club. And he and Ken Bucher, Bill Dominic, and several others started the club back around 85, I think. Bill Dominic is one of the founding members. He's still active with the club, is there most weeks. And if you come to our show, or if you've been to our show, you've hear someone speaking on the loudspeaker, that's usually Bill Dominic. So go up and say hey to him if you happen to see him at the next show. Ray Branch, many of you may know Ray. He was past, or is a past president of our club, and Ray's moved over to Winston-Salem, but he's still active in our club and helps us out with the showcase. And he was a great help in really getting the growth going in our club and getting the showcase going. As far as other members helping us out, we've got such a large team. I will mention, some of you are familiar with Tom Wolf, passed away a few years ago. Tom Wolf was a member of our club. And one of the neat things that Tom Wolf started in our showcase was a carving competition. And when it started out, people would just sit around in a circle and Tom would give them a scrap of wood and say, okay, carve something. Well, it developed to something little, not much different, but he would give everybody the same size of a block of wood. And you sit down at the showcase for an hour and a half with your tools and you carve whatever you want to. Blake's been in many of these. And at the end of an hour and a half, everybody turns in whatever they've got in whatever degree of carving they've got, and they're judged. And there's a few prizes involved, but the most fun thing about it is it's for fun and camaraderie, and it's kind of speed carving, but it's a good time. And if you come to the show, we do that both days, Saturday and Sunday, usually in the afternoon. So just plan to get an early lunch and come sit in on the wood carving competition. It's if you've never done it before, it might be a little daunting, but somebody will sit with you and get you through it. It's a lot of fun. Another great thing about our show is we get a lot of good carvers there, and we get a lot of good vendors there, and we've got a big enough room where we can, around the edge of it, we have vendors selling knives and books and just about anything you might think of that's needed for wood carving. We've got a wood vendor. We've got a new vendor this year, I think, that's going to be with us. And he's got some great basswood and some other kinds of wood. And actually, I think we got a couple of wood vendors for different types of wood. And, if you've never been to a carving show, sometimes it's hard to find some of these supplies. But if you go to a carving show that's got vendors, then plan to spend some money and take some stuff home with you, because you may not get another opportunity for another year. If you've been to a wood carving show, you know what I'm talking about. We like to do classes in the club, and a lot of times, because we're having the showcase, we're able to get some of the vendors that are coming that are professional instructors to maybe stay a week or come back even for another week later in the year. And that's one of the nice things about being a member of the club. And I'm not trying to push membership, but we do have a lot of out-of-town members. The membership for the club is only about $15, I think. We've tried to keep everything low and inexpensive. There's no fee for the public to get into our showcase, and we try to just break even on everything we do. The classes we have some members that will do classes in our Tuesday meetings, but we'll have 3-day classes quite frequently. Dave Stetson came and did a 3-day class for us after the show one year. Several others have done similar things. So if we have room in those classes, we'll try to get the word out to people so they can join up if they're interested. And of course, if you got something you're wanting to learn, someone you want to take a class with, send me an email or something. And if we've got something going on soon, I'll be glad to let you know how you can get involved with that. We also do this is something kind of unique to our club, I think, is we do a summer seminar. We do a getaway to the North Carolina mountains. There's a place called Wild Acres up in Little Switzerland, North Carolina, and we rent the part of the facility for a week, and we get two instructors to come in for 2 3-day classes, and we stay on the property there. It's beautiful view, nice rooms. They serve us 3 meals a day, and we don't even get that at home usually, so we're pretty happy about that. We can take cookies back to the studio with us too. Anyway, it's a way to get totally immersed in wood carving for a little while. Any questions so far?
Hey, Rod, one question. I know something that you all do there at the show that may be a little unique is you have a raffle and a silent auction that you do that helps raise funds for the club. Can you talk a little bit about that? How people can donate, and then what you all do with the funds that you receive from those proceeds?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Blake. Yeah, we've Bob Warner has really done a great job of growing our raffle, and it started out with just a few items back when we were at St. Anne's, and it's grown to over 100 different items. We have a raffle and a silent auction, and a lot of carvers will donate a carving for the raffle. Blake and some other guys have been good to donate in the past, and people will buy raffle tickets, and that's what helps keep the club going and lets us keep the membership prices down. Most importantly, it helps us pay for the show, so we don't have to charge admittance prices or other charges. We try to keep everything low. But the raffle is a lot of fun. You'll see a lot of neat items on there. A lot of the vendors that are at the show and some of that aren't at the show will donate pieces that can be raffled off. And if somebody donates a large item, we might have somebody that's donating an old bandsaw or a drill press, or you just never know what. And we'll put it in the silent auction. We had a banjo in it a couple of years ago, and it was broken, but it still went for a good price. And so you never know what's going to be in it, and it's just a lot of fun, and we make a little money for the club. We also have cash prizes for the carvers that win certain categories. We have, in fact, this year we're going to have $2,500 in cash prizes, and we try to divide those up so that it's not all going to the best of show or best of open, which is usually the same thing. But just to give you an idea, we've got cash prizes for best of show runner-up. We have a show theme every year. This year, the show theme is going to be first responders. So if you got a carving that'll fit into that category, or if you want to carve something in the category of first responders, enter it in the show when you come. There's a cash prize for that. There's also a plaque. We call it the Lee Dukes Award. I mentioned Lee earlier, and that's an honor to have one of those to put on your wall. We've got best of show theme for open, intermediate, and novice. So that's 3 different awards. We have an award for best of open, which is usually best of show, but it may not be sometimes. And best of show runner-up, best of intermediate and runner-up, best of novice and runner-up. This year we'll have best of birds in open, intermediate, and novice. We'll have best of caricatures in open, intermediate, and novice. We'll have best of animals in open, intermediate, and novice, and that's realistic animals, not caricatures. We have best of pyrography in open, intermediate, and novice. We'll have best of chip carving in open, intermediate, and novice, and we'll have best of cottonwood bark in open, intermediate, and novice. What we're trying to do with all these different awards, that's 6 different category awards. we're trying to spread the money out a little bit so everybody's got a chance of winning something. Every year we may change those categories so they're not the same from year to year. That again, the $2,500 is supported through the money we make on the show. So I do a little bit of teaching. I've just started getting involved in that in the last few years. People ask me about that occasionally. I teach in the club, and I was teaching at Woodcraft in Charlotte for a few years before the pandemic came along, and they stopped doing that. They haven't started back again, but I taught at a class up at John C. Campbell Folk School in North Carolina this year, and they've asked me to come back next year, so I'm looking forward to that. I've got a couple of rough outs that I work with so far, and in the last class we did some Christmas ornaments and some other things. We had mostly beginner carvings in that class, or carvers.
Hey, Rod, did you talk a little bit about the club and when they meet and the hours and that kind of thing?
Okay, yeah, sure. The club meets once a week. I know some clubs only meet monthly, but we started some time ago meeting every Tuesday, and we pretty much meet all day Tuesday. And the way that came about is we used to have a meeting place, 2 meeting places in Charlotte because it's such a big city. We had a place out in Matthews at Woodcraft, and we'd meet there in the morning, and in the afternoon we'd meet at a church over in the South Park neighborhood. And with Woodcraft closing their doors to us during the pandemic, we just moved everything over to the church, and they allowed us to meet there. So we meet there from about 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays till about 6 o'clock in the evening. And if we get some people that want to carve later than that, then we can make arrangements to be there even later if we need to. But there's people coming and going all day pretty much. People come at 9 o'clock. They might, leave at noon. Some of them will go out for lunch together and come back and carve the rest of the day. But it's a good group of people, and it's a good folks to carve with, because especially if you're new, you got people there you can kind of ask questions of, and they'll help you get started. And one of the things we've been doing the last couple of years is we've had beginners classes starting right after our showcase of wood carving in April. So folks that are new to carving and want to get started right, they can come to the Tuesday classes for like a 2-hour to 4-hour class, just depends on the class. And we'll start them off with something basic, get them started, and then throughout the rest of the year, at different periods of time, we'll have slightly more elevated and difficulty classes to keep them challenged and moving on to other things. And some folks are maybe going to be interested in one other type of carving, so they can migrate to folks that are focusing on that type of carving and sit with them. So I'd encourage anybody that's in the area, if you are interested in carving with us, you don't have to join. Just come on and carve with us on a Tuesday. And if you like it, want to keep coming back and you want to join, that's great. But if you're just in town for something else and you want somebody to carve with, we're more than happy for you to come and show up and carve with us. That'd be great.
Hey, Rod, you talked a little bit about offering classes. Can you talk a little bit about what kinds of classes you offer and show a little bit of your carvings?
Yeah, sure. I've got I do some, in this last class we did at Campbell, we focused on doing Santa ornaments. And so these are a couple of Santa ornaments that I've done. And it gives you an idea of what we're going after in a class like that. I've got some rough outs. I've got got this one rough out, which is I got this idea from the Addams Family. I don't know how many of y'all are fans, but I love the Addams Family. And this was a lurch. So, but he was so tall, I decided he needed short legs, so I gave him some really short legs. But I've also played around with this particular one and cut off the bottom stand there, and then I could make the legs a little bit longer. Anyway, this guy, he could be messed around with and turned into a Frankenstein or something. It's fun to play with these rough outs and just see what else you can get out of them. The guy I've had the longest is this. I called him Old Zeeb. He's just an old mountain man, and he likes to go out hiking in the woods, sometimes barefooted. I just started another one of him. I haven't finished it, but this is the rough out, and this is the rough out about 20% done, I guess. This is one of them that's been finished and painted. You know, and if you guys have, if you're not a real experienced carver but you've been carving a while and you want a challenge, come up with a rough out. It's kind of fun process to go through, just coming up with a design and then seeing it through. You have to carve one a few times, and you can send it off to Heineke or someplace to get some rough outs made. And then you got something you can teach from too if you want. Oh, here's a Frankenstein I did. This, well, actually, he's not finished yet, but here's a finished one. And these are just cut from a triangular piece of wood. They're flat on the back, and I like playing with these guys. I mean, these little triangular pieces, they're great practice, and you never know what you're going to come up with. I kind of learned some of that from Dave Stetson. He came and taught us. We weren't working with flat back pieces like this, but we were just doing faces, and it got me started on doing some of these things. So thanks, Dave. I like to play with expressions, and you never know what you're going to come up with. That was fun. One thing I did was I was interested in gargoyles, so I went on Pinterest. That's another great tool. There's lots of pictures out there. And I looked up some pictures of gargoyles, so I decided to imitate some of them. And these little guys came out of that. So that's fun to do. There's another guy. Happier faces were more fun than sad faces. But sometimes you like scary stuff, so. When I got started carving, there weren't a whole lot of people around town that were professional carvers. So I saw a notice go out from one of the club members that Helen Gibson was going to be in town and teaching a class. Well, of course, I didn't know who Helen Gibson was, but I've learned that Helen is with Johnson Campbell Folk School. She was a carver in residence there for many years. She's just now retiring. Great lady. She would come to Charlotte for a long weekend every year for a number of years, stay with a friend there, and there would be a 3-day class at one of the churches there, and we carved a lot of her figures from the Creechy book that she did. Look and see if I had one here. Yeah, this is Mary, and I tell you, those little faces are tough to carve, but she is a master at it, and she taught us how to do a lot of small detail and carvings like this. And mostly what she does is natural. So we did do some Santas and stuff that were painted. It's great fun to take these classes. Once I started learning about them, I found out about others. The Greenville Club had, which is about an hour and a half from Charlotte, was having Harley Wrestle down there. And I thought, well, that's a class I don't want to miss. I've been looking for a place that I could take a class with him. So I went down there and did some flat plane carving and did this little hunter guy. And, the things you learn in these classes are sometimes not what you thought you were going to learn. Doing these little checkered hats and stuff, I'd never done anything like that before. And he was really good at it. We had fun in that class. I went down there. I went to Greenville another time. There was a class with Vic Hood doing these large busts, and I'd never done anything like that. Oh, well, what a good opportunity! It's a lot better than driving the John C. Campbell, which is like 5-hour drive for me, and it was cheaper too. And I met a lot of great people at that class. That was fun. And I went into the class, and the only seats left were sitting right between Ron Downey and Peter Ortel, and that was some pressure, but I made some good friends. They were good people. We had a lot of fun together. And I encourage you, if you're getting started, take any class you can find close to you, even if it may not be something you're real interested in, but you'll learn something, I guarantee you. And if you haven't been to Steve Brown's Renegade in Lebanon, Tennessee, if you're a caricature carver, that's definitely something you want to try. Blake, what else do you think?
Ron, I know a lot of the CCA members come to the show every year. It's a good opportunity to get to carve and get to meet some of those guys. I know a lot of them sit in on the carving competition that we do both days. And I know the CCA came a few years back and had their annual show there. What other, do you have any other kind of guest carvers or any kind of spotlight carvers that come in from time to time outside of classes?
Well, we do sometimes. Thanks for mentioning that. And I guess it was 2020, the CCA had their meeting in Charlotte, and we were really happy about that. We had a lot of their members come by our show and set up tables, and we always have a few of the CCA members come by our show. Some of them are in our club, and others live close by. And yeah, it's kind of intimidating when they sit down to carve beside you sometimes, but it's a lot of fun too. And if you're not a caricature carver, if you're into chip carving, Bill Johnson lives in Cullowhee, North Carolina, and he comes down to our show every year, and he'll usually do a seminar if we ask him. We have 4 or 5 seminars at the show every year too. That's another thing that it's great about our show is I hardly ever get to go because I'm usually doing something else, but the seminars are always filled, and they're free too. And we get some great instructors in there, and it's an hour of in-depth education and carving. And we don't know what the titles will be until almost sometimes just shortly before the show. So we can't publish it really until the show opens, but it's definitely worth some time just for that. Yeah, we try to always, we don't really have a featured carver so much at the show, but anytime we can get a carver to come in and participate in the show, we'll usually try to get them to be a judge with us. And if we can, we'll set up a class for them after the show, because we can usually fill a class with members, or since it's right after a show, if people are coming down from out of town, they'll usually stick around for a good class like that.
But I know also that, at the show every year, it's a good opportunity to pick up tools. Like you said, Helvey always comes. You got Statlander that comes in. You've sometimes had wood burners that have come, and the Burke sharpening group has come in there. So really, if somebody wants to come to a show and they want to be able to either get started in carving or pick up some stuff that they haven't been able to order or whatever, they can come there at the show and pick it up there. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. You mentioned wood burning. Michelle Parsons is a fabulous wood burner and pyrographer, however they want to say it. And she will come down to our club every once in a while and teach a class, but she'll always be at our show too. And she'll usually do a seminar if we ask her. And all these guys, they're, even if they're not doing a seminar, they're there at the show, and they don't mind sharing what they know. It's a great chance to pick the brain of somebody who's done a lot more of it than you have, and you're trying to learn. And I'm in charge of setting up the judges for the show. And so I can always get a lot of questions about that. So I'll talk about that for a minute. We, as I mentioned, we have 3 levels of competition and sometimes well over 1,000 carvings. So we get 8 judges, and we set them up in teams of 2. And we try to, with all the great carvers we got coming to be vendors or to do seminars or whatever, we try to tap their experience, and we give them a small amount of money, but it's not much to help pay for their gas or something. But they're great to volunteer to do this. And, so if you enter a carving, it's being judged by someone who's qualified, well qualified. So we'll have 2 carvers that are pretty much professional bird carvers. They will judge all the birds. And for the caricatures, we'll usually have 2 CCA members. And we try to get members that aren't in our club if we can, because we want them to be totally unbiased. I don't think any of our club members would be biased, but just to have to avoid that presence. And we can usually tap into some other judges for whatever specialty we need. And everybody that's judging is well qualified to do that. The best of show will come from best of novice, best of intermediate, or best of open. Now, it's not hard to figure out that that's usually going to be best of open, but we don't make that assumption. The judges have those 3 carvings to choose from, and they'll pick whichever one they think it is. Whatever the judges decide, that's final. That's their say. We don't have any call over it. The only thing we will do is we have certain rules that we try to go by, and those will be printed in our brochure that you can print out off of our webpage. And we try to stick to those rules, and we try to make rules that we try not to make rules that we can't enforce. So we don't have any rule that says you can't enter a rough out. I get that question a lot. We do have a rough out category for caricatures, and there is a special prize usually for that winner. But all we have rules that say it must be carved solely by you, and I just refer you to the rules specifically. So we don't have an instructor-assisted category, and we ask that people just be on their honor about not entering instructor-assisted carvings. We're a lot more easy on that if we're in novice or something. But before you come to the show or before you enter your carvings, read the rules, and that's for any show you enter. I'd encourage you to do that. I have been to shows that say no rough outs in any category, and then I go to the show and I see a lot of rough outs. Yeah, I don't see any reason to have a rule that you can't enforce. But that's just me. So.
Right, I'd like to open the floor up. I know a lot of other people have attended different shows and stuff throughout the United States. Maybe some of them have suggestions or questions about how you all do it, or
Yeah.
suggestions that they do that maybe you all don't do. Because I know, you're always interested in trying to grow the show and add new things for people. So anybody have any questions or suggestions for Rod as far as his meetings and his shows and stuff go?
Yeah, Rod, this is Dean Irving down here of Smoky Mountain Woodcarvers. We just
Hey.
had our show, and one of the things I'm interested in is how do you determine, do you have age or length of carving for novice, intermediate, and open? Or how do you determine those groupings?
Yeah. Hey, Dean, how you doing?
Good.
We in novice, we say that anybody who has, I believe it's anyone who's been carving for less than 6 years. Let me see what it says.
Okay, good.
3 years. Let's see. Anyway, it's either three years or 6 years, something like that. And if they've won 6 blue ribbons or more in novice in our show, then we ask them to move up to intermediate. So after a number of years or a number of ribbons, they need to move up to intermediate. There's no age limitation. In the past, we've had a youth category. We haven't had that in a while. There's always some discussion of bringing it back, but so far we haven't.
Yeah. Okay.
Now in intermediate, we've a few years ago, we did make one rule that if you win best of intermediate, you need to move up to open. Other than that, you don't have to leave intermediate.
Yeah, that's similar to what we have. If you've won, we don't have the number of blue ribbons, but I like that idea because some of those novices clean up, but if they don't win, if they've won best of a class, they have to move up to the next class. So best of intermediate, they have to move into open. They don't have a choice in our group.
Yeah, you may notice at our show, if you come to it, that intermediate gets pretty crowded sometimes because people don't want to move up to open.
Yeah, well, actually, in our group this time, I think open was our biggest, had the biggest number of carvings, and novice and intermediate were about the same. So, but we had this year, we added an instructor assisted, and like your show, we pay money, but we don't pay as, I don't know if it's probably not as much as what you do. We pay big money for best of winners. And then we pay, I think, $10 for any blue ribbon, $5 for any second place.
I like that. That's nice. And I think an instructor assisted category is good to have. When we've discussed it in the past, we just decided not to do it for whatever reason, but it's always being evaluated.
We had ours, we added that this year, but just instructor assisted, didn't matter, not one for open intermediate, just instructor assisted. And that was surprisingly to me, it was not a lot of carvings in that. I thought there'd be tons of carvings from all the people going to shows and Zoom class. Well, how do you handle Zoom classes? We let those be not instructor assisted because the instructor isn't touching your carving.
Yeah, well, since we don't have an instructor assisted category, we don't have to address that. And I'm sure that there are carvings entered that were instructor assisted, particularly in novice, because a lot of those carvers, that's only carvings they have. But in intermediate and open, since we don't say anything about it, there's no way to tell.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dean.
Come to the show next year, October.
I'm going to try to. I'm sorry I haven't been there already.
Good, we make you a judge.
Okay.
You and Blake can team up next year.
All right.
That'd be good.
Hey, Rod.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, might add too, it's really nice to have that application filled out before you get there. That makes it really easy going through the lines. The one that you've got on your website, last year I had that filled out, and if you're bringing a lot of carvings, it really helps getting people through the line, especially if they start bogging in on Saturday morning.
Thank you for mentioning that. You're right. That helps us a lot, and you too. Yeah, as much of the stuff as you can have filled out in advance. We've usually only got 2 guys checking all the carvings in, and it moves reasonably fast, but it's a lot of work for 2 volunteers to do. So the more you can help them, the better they'll like you. Anything else?
Hey, Rod, I know a big thing that we always talk about anytime we have somebody on, we ask them how they finish their carvings. Because you do some instruction, can you give a little rundown as far as your process is on finishing, painting, and how you usually do that?
Yeah, that's something I'm constantly experimenting with, and I think a lot of other people do too. But it's kind of fun. I like to, if I'm doing these little guys, obviously I don't paint most of these. So most of the time I'm going to put some boiled linseed oil cut with turpentine or something, 50-50, and I'll usually put some raw sienna oil paint, just a dab of it in the mixture as an antiquing agent. And then once that dries, I'll spray 2 or 3 coats of polyurethane or something similar onto it, and then I'll put wax on it. And I usually use a colored wax, something that's got a little bit of darkening in it, and I'll cut that with a natural wax so that it's not too deep. Golden oak, if I'm using brie wax, which is one I like to use, it's a paste wax, and so I'll mix natural and golden oak, and that particular process is one I learned from both Tom Wolfe and Mitch Cartledge. At that time, Mitch is always changing what he does, so you never know what he's doing. But I like that. It comes out good, and I'll do that on my painted carvings mostly too. But when I'm painting, and I can tell you're experimenting with this too, and looking at some of your carvings. It's fun to kind of use some undercurrents, underpaints, undercoats, and see how they work with the painting and with that carving and so forth. Some of the hats on the Santas, I put a black or a dark blue under that red paint that I've got them on, and I like the effect it gives it. I've tried it on the whole carving, and it doesn't work on the face very well, but it works on the hat. I like it. I don't know if this one has that. Yeah, I don't think this one I did that on, but it's fun to play with colors too. So if you've got a particular red you haven't tried before, something that's not the standard Santa color, give it a try. This color on the band of this hat and on the tassel is something I learned from Carol Levee. She did a class in Charlotte, and she's like, not everything has to be white. She did this kind of yellowish color, and I liked it, so I put that on a few carvings, and it came out nice. But it's just what you like. Play around with it. And if you're not sure how it's going to turn out, what I started doing is I'll get a little piece of basswood, carve some notches into it, and then use the paint on that to see how it's going to look on there before you put it on your carving. That way you're not going to ruin a carving by mistake. And then when you're done, you can use that as a bookmark.
And Rod, you talked a few minutes ago about rough outs. Do you just offer those during classes, or can people reach out to you and get rough outs from you now?
No, I don't have to be just in a class. I sell them sometimes to club members that are asking about them. But yeah, if somebody's interested in them, they can contact me. They're trying to think what I charge for them. I think about 12 for the smaller one and 15 for the larger one. I'll show them to you. So like, this is the Adams Family guy. He'd be 15 and this little guy is 12. But that doesn't include shipping. And next time I order them, I don't know what they're going to cost me because shipping's gotten so bad.
Do you bring those to the Charlotte show when you're there and sell them from there if they decide they want to pick one up from you?
I would if somebody let me know in advance. I don't usually have them with me because I'm usually running all over the place, and I don't rent a table because I can't ever be there.
Right.
I'd like to. Maybe you'll man it for me, Blake.
Absolutely. If I'm not judging, I'll be happy to.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions for Rod today? I tell you, I want to tell you all, I've been going to the Charlotte show since I first started carving. And it's more like a family reunion, I think, than probably any other type show. I don't know. Most carving shows are probably like that because everybody kind of knows everybody. But in Charlotte, you got that special feeling that you're going to see people that you know. The same people have been going there as long as I can remember, and that's 15, 16 years. And so I just encourage everybody, if you're in the area, if you're in the region, and you get the opportunity to make plans to come down there in April, it's really a great time to come. It used to be in February, and you never knew what the weather was going to be, and they bumped it back up to April. The weather's always great. It's a huge facility. They've got plenty of room. We always have big crowds coming through, and they do the competitions, the time competitions both days, so you can come in the afternoon and see those. They do mini seminars, so sometimes somebody will be in the back room teaching things, and it's really just a complete show for any carver that wants to come in and either get involved or kind of see what it's like to come to a show. So I reached out to Rod and just said, hey, this is a good opportunity to advertise this show. I try to support it as much as I can. And I encourage you all, if you're in the region, again, to get involved with their club and also get involved with this show and try to come down and participate if you get a chance. Rod, I want to say thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming in and sharing. And again, I'll continue to try to promote the show, and I'll advertise it up until April next year to try to get people out to that. So I just want to say thank you for all that you do. I know you work hard, and I've seen it firsthand. So I know that you're way involved in it. And, I want to say thanks for all the work that you do up there. And again, encourage people to come out. Any last words from you?
Yeah, just, I appreciate what you're saying. Let me just say that there's a lot of people that help in this show that they don't get much notoriety, but believe me, there's a lot of people, and you'll see them running around at the show too. You just don't know who they are.
Right.
But they do a lot of work on that show. It takes a lot of people. And if anybody would like to get involved, we really be happy to have your help. It's a good way to learn how a show's done. And we need younger people learning how to do this and helping out. But thanks, Blake, for helping promote it. It really helps a lot. And if anybody can help promote it at their club or in their area, please do.
All right. I just want to say thanks again for coming on today. Keep in mind that the workshops that I spoke of at the beginning of the meeting are available. Again, Dave Stetson's got a class coming up, Janet Cordell, Bob Hershey, Ryan Olson. Reach out to those people. If you can't get to a live class, this is the best opportunity to do some online learning. Some of these classes are 12 hours or whatever, and you get to see everything that the instructor is showing you. and you get to go back and rewatch the videos. So if you're interested in any of those classes with them, reach out to them and get signed up so you can participate in those. And again, you can go out on Woodcarving Academy, check out the workshops that are available, and also subscribe there and go back and watch past instruction. There's a lot of good classes that are available through video, and you can watch them over and over. So check those out. Again, we're off next week on Saturday the 5th. We won't have a meeting. We'll be back here on November the 12th with Jim Feather. He's going to do a demonstration. He always does a great job with us. So make sure you come back in on the 12th, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, Rod, we appreciate you coming on today, and thank you all for joining us with the International Association of Woodcarvers.